Welcome to part 2 of our series on the undivided heart. Today we explore a fundamental truth. We were created to live from one center. In this lesson, we will look back at the beginning to understand why our hearts feel fragmented today and how we were originally designed to live in perfect communion with our Creator. To understand the divided heart, we must go back to the beginning. James diagnoses the condition, but Genesis explains its origin. Scripture does not begin with humanity in confusion. It begins with humanity in communion. Genesis tells us that God created man and woman in His own image. That simple statement carries profound implications. Human identity was never intended to be something we invented. It was something we received. Adam did not wake up wondering who he was. Eve did not search for her significance. Neither of them had to build an identity through achievement, accumulate worth through possessions, or earn acceptance through performance. God gave them everything they needed. He gave them life, purpose, meaningful work, and one another. He gave them a beautiful world to cultivate. Most importantly, He gave them Himself. Every part of their lives revolved around one glorious center, God. Notice something important. Adam and Eve were not created to do only one thing. Their lives were wonderfully diverse. They worked, they rested, they cultivated creation, they enjoyed marriage, and they exercised dominion. Wholeheartedness does not mean having only one activity. It means every legitimate activity is ordered beneath one supreme allegiance. Work was done under God. Marriage was enjoyed before God. Creation was received as God's gift. Identity flowed from belonging to God. Everything found its proper place because God occupied His rightful place. Brothers and sisters, this is how we were created to live, not with one compartment labeled God and another labeled career. God never intended to become one priority among many. He intended to be the center. This is why Jesus later summarized the law by saying, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." Not because God is demanding something unreasonable, but because this is how we flourish. A wheel functions properly only when every spoke is connected to the hub. Remove the hub and eventually every spoke loses its stability. So it is with the human heart. When God is the center, every other relationship finds its proper place. Marriage becomes healthier, work becomes meaningful rather than enslaving. Money becomes a tool instead of a master. Success becomes an opportunity instead of an identity. Even suffering finds purpose because our hope rests beyond our circumstances. But Genesis 3 tells us something changed. The serpent did not merely tempt Adam and Eve to eat forbidden fruit. He tempted them to redefine the center of life. His promise was simple: you will be like God. In other words, you no longer need to receive your identity from Him. You can determine good and evil for yourselves. You can define reality. You can become the center. That temptation has never disappeared. Every temptation is ultimately an invitation to relocate the center of our lives. Instead of living from God, we begin living from ourselves. Instead of trusting God's wisdom, we trust our own understanding. The fruit itself was not the deepest issue. The issue was independence. The issue was autonomy. The consequences were immediate. The first thing Adam and Eve experienced after sin was not freedom, it was fragmentation. They became ashamed. The people who had once walked openly before God suddenly hid from Him. The couple who had lived in perfect unity began blaming one another. Fear entered where trust had once flourished. The heart that had been united around one center became divided. That is exactly what sin always does. It fragments, it scatters, it disintegrates what God designed to be whole. Paul describes this in Romans 1. He says humanity exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator. That is the biblical definition of idolatry. It is not limited to carved images. Most idols never sit upon shelves. They sit upon hearts. An idol is anything created that we ask to provide what only God can give. A career becomes an idol when it must tell us who we are. Money becomes an idol when it becomes our security. This is why good gifts can become terrible gods. There is nothing wrong with work, marriage, or children. The problem begins when gifts replace the giver. Created things were never designed to bear the weight of deity. Whenever we ask created things to do what only God can do, they disappoint and enslave us. God is not protecting himself from competition, he is protecting us from slavery. One God, one supreme allegiance, this is his design. The soul was never designed to carry the burden of many centers. Only God can occupy the center of the human heart. Join us in the next part as we look at the different forms our divided loyalties take.